Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Adam. This is my channel, Adam Sews, and today I'm coming to you with a vlog about the questions and answers that my lovely subscribers have asked on my community tab. So I'm going to jump straight into it. I'm going to be reading off of my, that was my printer, ignore that. I'm going to be reading off my iMac, which is over here. So as if you see me turn backwards and forwards, it's just so that I can read the questions, because I tried to print them out and YouTube won't allow me to, because I am not that technically minded that I know how to work it. So I'm going to start off with the question from the lovely Laura, who is Laura Jones, and she said, what are your favourite projects? Have you had a project fail or not work out as expected? And if so, how did you handle it? Do you have any other hobbies besides quilting and sewing? So I've read through all these questions and I've tried to think of an answer for them. And to be honest, I don't know that there is something that I've had, a project that I've had that's failed as such. I've had projects that I have got partway through and just thought, you know what, this is just not enjoyable. And if something's not enjoyable, then that for me is where I say enough's enough. Because if I don't know that I can finish it in a good amount of time, and normally when I don't enjoy something, or I'm getting to the point where I feel like the project's beating me, I tend to find there's just no point of trying to finish it, because you're just not going to enjoy the process. And then 9 times out of 10, when I have forced myself to finish something that I didn't enjoy sewing, I don't even like the project at the end of it. So the other thing that Laura asked was, are there any other hobbies besides quilting and sewing? So there are other hobbies, including crochet, but to be quite honest and open, sewing takes up so much of my free time, and has become partly a business for me as well. And I just don't get the time to do any of the other hobbies anymore. I do like to cook. I do quite a lot of cooking, and I do like to cook things from the get-go rather than pre-made things. So I do quite a lot of cooking, and I will pick up crochet when the time permits, and I will learn how to do it properly, because at the moment I sort of know just bits and bobs of how to do the basics, and I don't really know how to do that very well. So I would like to be able to turn my hand to that and actually feel more comfortable doing it properly. So the next question is from Eileen, and she said, have you got any tips for productivity? You get a huge amount of projects completed. Also, where ideally would you see yourself in 5 years' time in terms of sewing or life more generally? So in 5 years' time, I'll start off with that part of the question. In 5 years' time, I would ideally like to be sole income through my sewing, whether that be through my pattern writing or through other means within the sewing industry. The sewing industry is what I'm passionate about. It's what I get up in the morning and think about. It's what I go to bed thinking about. And it's what I spend most of my day when I'm not sewing and doing other things thinking about. So yeah, that would ideally in 5 years' time, I would like to be self-sufficient based on sewing alone. Tips for productivity is, I have days when I really struggle to get myself in the right frame of mind to get going. And I tend to find that if that is the case, I don't try and push it. I will kind of sit back and I'll sort of think to myself, right, okay, if you're not feeling like it's going to be enjoyable, do something that's going to sort of gear you up. So quite often, like this morning, I have sat and watched some of my lovely YouTubers. I've just watched Sam from So Let's Sparkle, and you can get that motivation of other people, and that's what inspires me mainly. So if I'm feeling a little bit meh and I don't really want to sew, or I don't feel like I'm going to enjoy it, I generally turn to other sources of sewing that will make me excited about the process. The next question is from Deb from Sewing Sims with Deb, the lovely Deb from Down Under. She said, would love to know where you got your doggies, what their breed is, and all things dog. They're so cute. So one of my dogs, as you may or may not know, I've got 2 Boston Terriers. One is Dobby, the male, and one is Luna, the female. So Luna is 4. It was her 4th birthday this week. And she got lots of different toys and things for it, because that's what she gets. And she came from a lovely breeder up in Yorkshire in the north of England. She was a surprise present for me from my husband after I lost my previous Boston Terrier, who was called Squidge. So Squidge was only 5 when we lost her. She unfortunately had to be put to sleep very suddenly because she actually had some form of brain tumour or bleed in her brain. So it all happened very quickly, and she was like how Luna is to me now. She was my best friend, basically. And when I lost her, it was quite a traumatic experience because it all happened within less than 24 hours. And after that happened, about 2 months after that happened, without me knowing, my lovely husband found a breeder that had a new litter of Boston Terriers that were ready to go to new homes, and he actually contacted this particular breeder, the lovely Maria, and she had already found homes for all of them. But the lady that was going to be the new owner of Luna wasn't coming across as the most clued up person when it came to owning a dog. I don't think she'd ever owned a dog, and she was asking the breeder quite a lot of questions about would she be house trained, would she be this, would she be that, and different things, which you don't assume would ever be the case with a puppy. And my Luna's breeder is very, very knowledgeable and just a very good breeder. She wanted to make sure that they went to their best homes. So she ended up turning around to that particular person and saying that I'm really, really sorry, but I don't think that she is the best fit for you. And then she messaged my husband and said, one of the puppies has become available. Are you still interested? And then she vetted our house via FaceTime. She had an interview with my husband. All of this happened without me knowing. And then he one day drove all the way up to Yorkshire and back and brought her home and surprised me with her. So that is the story behind Luna. And then Dobby we got for Luna because she needed a playmate. And he came from a breeder in Wales who was not the best breeder, but we feel like we've given him the best chance in life, and he's an absolute beast. So he's obviously very healthy, and he's very happy, and they are the best friends. So that is a very long-winded way around saying about how we got the dogs, basically. But Boston Terriers are sort of my thing. I don't think I'd ever be without another Boston Terrier now. They are the breed that just brings me joy, and I just love their character and personality. So the next question is from Karen Jones. It says, hi Adam, did you ever attend any sewing courses or garment sewing or quilting? Who is your biggest inspiration that helped you along the way take up sewing when you were younger? So I will start off with who was my biggest inspiration. And my biggest inspiration was probably my sewing teacher at school. She was really, really good at sort of allowing you to create whatever you wanted within the lines of a very vague description as to what the project had to be. So I studied GCSE textiles, and I was going to go on to fashion school afterwards, but then my life changed course and I ended up studying to be a hairdresser instead, which I don't do anymore in a salon, but I do some private clients outside of work. So she basically just allowed me to make whatever I wanted, as long as I could somehow wangle it into the criteria that was very loosely based on. So yeah, I did that. So that kind of covers, who inspired me and the education I got when it came to sewing. So since then, everything I know now pretty much has either been learnt from other YouTubers or through reading sewing books, doing some sort of sew-alongs online and different things like that. And I do watch quite an extensive amount of YouTube with techniques and different things like that. So that's that one. Lovely Mary from Love My Craft said, have you ever been to America? What is your favourite? And what is your favourite breakfast? Because I joked about asking whether you wanted to know what my favourite breakfast was. So my favourite breakfast is probably, it's not something I have very often, but if I was told that I had one meal left for breakfast and that was my lot, it would probably have to be Eggs Benedict Royale with smoked salmon and hollandaise sauce and all of that loveliness. So have I ever been to America? I haven't, and it is my dream holiday, but it is just not worked out yet. and it will hopefully come to happen in the next year or two, I hope. So yes, that I would love to go to America. It's my dream holiday, but it's just one of those things that's just never been the right time to go as of yet. Which brings me on to another question, which is from the lovely John from Art East Quilting Co. And he said, have I got any plans to come to Canada? Because that is what we like to call it, because it sounds a lot more fancy than Canada. And yes, if again, with like the previous question with going to America, Canada again is somewhere that I would absolutely love to visit. It looks incredible. The culture, the history, and all those different things just look brilliant. And obviously I could pop in and say hello to the HQ of Art East Quilting. I mean, come on now. So the lovely Lynn said, if you could teach any celebrity to sew, who would you choose? Now, see, I looked at this question for quite a while, and I thought about it, and I thought about it, and I thought about it, and I thought to myself, do you know what? I think I would just try and teach. If I had to pick someone to teach sewing to, I think I would pick someone that was hilarious, so a comedian of some kind. So whether it be someone like Ricky Gervais or Alan Carr, or whether it be even someone like Alison Hammond off of This Morning, because I just think it would be the most hysterical thing to do, to teach someone like that, because it would be carnage, but I think it would be absolutely hysterical at the same time. So I think that's probably where I would go if I was given the choice of who to teach sewing to in terms of celebrities. And then the lovely Dizzy from Izzy from Dizzy Quilts and Izzy from Dizzy Quilts and Sews. Apologies, Izzy. That is a real tongue twister. She said, when did you first discover Tula, and was it love at first sight? So I discovered Tula probably about 3 or 4 years ago now. So initially I thought her fabrics were absolutely incredible, and they are quite pricey. But then when I sort of like learned how I learned about the sort of quality of the fabric and different things like that, and the other thing that I would like to add about that is her fabrics wash and wash and wash and wash. So if you make garments, bags, anything from them, if you put them through the wash machine, they come out looking as good as new. So the colours don't fade, the quality doesn't diminish. So there's a lot to be said about buying designer cottons. So yeah, and I was hooked, completely hooked, left, right and sinker. And I am, well, as you probably can see, I've gone down the biggest wormhole when it comes to Tula. So the next question, I'm just trying to work out. The lovely Rowan from the Yorkshire Sew Girl said, who is your favourite celebrity crush? You know, the one that's on the list where if you met them, you were allowed to run off with them. So this is a good question. And of course, Ruan would have been the person to ask it. I don't actually know the answer, to be honest, because I don't really have someone that I sort of swoon after or anything like that. It's I normally sort of think, oh, wouldn't it be nice to give them a hug? Or wouldn't it be nice to look after them when someone in a film or program or something you're watching is sort of feeling a little bit lonely and different things like that. And I just kind of want to do that whole motherly thing and look after them. So it would probably, I don't know the answer to that one, honestly, Ruan. Yeah, a little bit baffled by that one. There's normally someone in something that we're currently watching. Like if we're watching Breaking Bad, I always feel a bit bad for Jesse Pinkman and think, he just needs someone to give him a hug and look after him. That's all he really wants, really. So it'd probably be someone like that. But moving on, the next one we've got is from Cloves I Sew, which says, how do you get your binding looking so neat? Doesn't matter how I do it, it still looks crap. Neat on one side and rubbish on the other. Any tips would be fabulous. Right, so sewing on binding. If you're doing a double fold bias binding or a double fold straight binding, my biggest tip would be, one, do not press your binding in half, because if you put a fold in it, you will get wrinkles when you try and flip it to the other side. So just fold it by hand, joining the two sides together, the two raw edges, and then pinning and clipping it into place. I would also say that the biggest tip that I can give for binding is when you apply it, make sure your seam allowance is as accurate as you can possibly get it. So if it's a 2-inch binding because you're doing a 1/4 inch seam and then folding it to the other side, like what happens when I make the binding on my bags, like here. I always do a 2-inch binding on these because I like a nice narrow tight binding on the edge of my bags. So I will sew a 1/4 inch seam one side, roll it to the other side, and then clip it in place, and I will stitch along using a tailor's awl to hold the binding over, and it also allows you to pull the binding over and get a good tension on it as it goes towards the needle. So yeah, seam allowance as accurate as you can. Cut your binding strips as accurately as physically possible with a ruler and a rotary cutter, and a nice long ruler that you can get a nice long accurate cut in one go. Also, the other thing that really helps is when you're stitching it onto the first side, if you've got a 1/4 inch compensating foot or a 1/4 inch seam guide foot, you're going to get the most accurate quarter seam that you can get when you're applying it to the first side of your bag or quilt that you're applying it to. How many hours a week do I spend sewing? And that's from the lovely Alexandra Zaza Burns. I probably spend, I would say around between 15 and 25 hours a week sewing, I would say. 15 and 25? Yeah, something like that. I probably, oh, that might be a bit much actually. I probably spend between around 15 to 20 hours sewing a week. 25 might be a push. Depends on what I've been doing really. So I have actually managed to reduce my work, my main job down to 3 days a week. So I now spend Thursday through to Sunday sewing. So I get all my pre-orders done on a Thursday and a Friday. I spend one of those days pattern writing and catching up on emails and doing my social media and different things like that, because at the end of the day, it is just one person that is sat doing everything when it comes to everything related to my little business. I do all of my own emails, I do all of my own posting, I do all of my own packing, I do the making, I do the ordering, I do everything by myself. So I try my best to make sure that anything that I make for sale or anything that is a pre-order or anything like that is completed within at least a 4-week period, and I try and get it mailed out within 24 hours of finishing it. And yeah, that is what I generally try and do. So I spend between sort of 15 to 20 hours a week. So in some weeks I don't get as much time as that. If other things come up, that's just life. So the lovely Joanna has said, does your hubby have his own fabric stash, or does he take or borrow from you? Does your hubby have his own YouTube channel? So no, he doesn't have a YouTube channel. I don't think it's something he would ever do, because I just don't think it's of interest. He does have his own fabric stash. He doesn't come and help himself. He will occasionally, if he's making a quilt and he needs some background fabric and he knows that I've got a full bolt of something, he'll say, have you got 2-3 meters spare that I could use for this quilt? And of course, if I have, he can have it. But yes, he does have his own fabric stash. It's quite a substantial stash as well, considering he's not been sewing that long. So I taught him to sew less than a year ago, and he's probably got about half the amount of fabric that I've got. Maybe about a third of the fabric that I've got already. But he doesn't actually particularly like the fabrics that I like. So he does like Tudor fabrics, but he would prefer to use Kaffe, William Morris, Liberty, or something sort of a little bit more with a sort of vintagey vibe, like Laurie Holt as well. So we do sort of cross over on the things that we both like. We have a lot of designers in common that we like using, but he is much more swayed towards the Kaffe facets of the Free Spirit realm and Anna Maria Horner, whereas I'm more Tula, a little bit of Kaffe. I do like a little bit of Liberty, depending on what sort of print it is. And I also love Laurie Holt's fabric, but I don't get time to use it enough. So the last question that's on here is, how do you manage with work and sewing? And I think I've answered that already, but yeah, so I've split my week completely, basically. I do 3 days at my job, 4 days sewing. And that may sound a bit bonkers to some of you, but yes, I pretty much work 7 days a week most weeks. I try and take 1 day out a week. Most of the time, as much as it's probably not the best way to be, and life happens, but I end up working 7 days a week most weeks. And that is purely by choice. I could work less than that, but I like to make sure that everything's done in a timely process, and if I have to work 7 days in order to achieve that, then I do. So yeah, that's pretty much it really. That is all the questions that I was asked, and I'm just going to go and check, because I think there was one more question that wasn't on here that was sent to me by a lovely viewer on Instagram, so I'm just going to go and double check, and then I'll be back with you. So there was one more question, and that was from the lovely Julie, who is Julie Sews Her Own Clothes on Instagram and on YouTube, and she said to me, would I ever consider selling bag kits with my patterns? Because if I did do that, where can she sign up, bless her? So yes, so I have a new pattern coming out very shortly, and I am going to possibly, I'm not guaranteeing this for now, but I'm possibly going to kit that bag to a limited amount when it initially launches, purely to see how that is, how many people would like that sort of thing from me, and if moving forward that is successful, then it might be something that I will do in future. So I might do, say, 10 kits a month, and kit 10 different, a mix of different patterns and different things like that with different fabrics. So yeah, that is something that I have thought about, Julie, and if I do it, you'll be one of the first people to know. And yeah, so that is it from me today on this vlog. I hope that some of this was interesting. It allows you to get to know me a little bit better, and me to get to know you a little bit better. So I am going to sign off for today. I will see you all very soon with another Friday Sews. And yeah, thanks for asking all the questions. I will talk to you all soon. Take care, and bye for now.